All right, so I went to film school at Florida State University from 2006 to 2008. I was 26 when I started and 28 when I graduated film school and moved to Los Angeles, California to pursue my dreams of being a Hollywood screenwriter. So how much debt did it take to get through film school? It was about $90,000 to go to film school. The first year was out-of-state tuition, the second year was in-state tuition, and that helped keep it under the $100,000 mark. And that $90,000, just so you know, my wife and I, we're still paying that off to this very day. So here is the big question. Was it worth it? Would I do it again? Do I regret going to film school? And if you're someone who's thinking about going to film school, should you go to film school and get into debt, whether it's huge amounts of money at a place like USC or a little bit less amount of money like at Florida State University where I went? That is the question, isn't it? Let's get into it. So we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about how film school is an accelerator. We're going to talk about how it creates empathy. We're going to talk about how it's a quick combo of your talent and skill, and we're going to talk about relationships and networking. The big thing for film school was it was an accelerator. In 2006, there was no access to film equipment, digital cameras like I'm using right now. It was not easy to get a film made, and if you were going to make a film, it was most likely going to be done with film. So 16 millimeter, super 16 millimeter, 35 millimeter film, and those things were expensive, difficult to access, and then developing and processing film, incredibly difficult. Digital transfers so you could edit them, just a nightmare of logistics to try to get anything done. And this is back when YouTube existed, but it wasn't what YouTube is now. It wasn't like what you see now where creators like me are creating tutorials about how to do stuff, make stuff, cinematography, lighting, all that stuff. So film school offered a 2-year program that was an intensive conservatory program that got you from no knowledge in filmmaking to a very high degree of efficiency and skill. And that meant everything from pre-production, production, and post-production, as well as screenwriting. Now, the film production kids learned more on the production side, of course, and then I learned on the writing side, but my first semester I spent a ton of time producing short films. And that doesn't mean I was the producer, but it means I was working on set in all the positions. Film school was a way to greatly accelerate my learning instead of being self-taught or going to Los Angeles or New York or Atlanta and working my way up through the ranks as a PA and then being on set. That acceleration also allowed me to go through all the different positions on set, and including below the line and above the line, and that was important on the point I'll touch on later, which is empathy. So overall, film school accelerating the learning of film and film production and post-production was incredibly important, and that was really one of the only options you had back in 2006 if you, like me, were saying to yourself, I want to have a career in filmmaking. What is the best way to achieve that? For me, the answer was go to film school. So that's what I did. This has got a nice little park here, nice little spot to do some vlogging. I try to do parks because it's a way to kind of get away from everyone, and obviously I'm free to film all I want in public, so it's nice to be able to do it that way. Let's move on to another spot and continue the conversation. One thing that I really love about what film school did was it generated empathy. Now, empathy in the sense that because you had to go through every position in the production track, from best boy electric all the way up to above the line, cinematographer, director, producer, it taught you that, especially if your career trajectory was to go into above the line work, cinematographer, producer, director, and the other above the line positions, it taught you to understand the point of view of the people who were in the below the line crew, your best boy electric, your key grip, your dolly grip. You understood what they went through and what they had to do to help the cinematographer achieve their vision, to help the director achieve their vision, to answer to a producer, to deal with everything that you deal with on set. And that empathy that you learn from having to do those positions, I think really sets up Florida State University students especially for a long-term career and being good leaders on set and being good people on set. And that was really important, I feel like. I wanted to say real quick, this Peter McKinnon bag continues to impress me. I've been using this all day today and for the last several weeks, and I'm really feeling like the investment in this, which again, close to $500 or so to have all of this with the accessories and all that is really paying off compared to my old backpack. It's easy to get to my laptop. It's easy to get to all my accessories inside. I've got a link in the description if you're interested in checking out. This isn't sponsored by Nomadic. I just wanted to share with you that I'm continually impressed by this bag and really glad that I got it. The other point that I want to make about film school is you're combining very quickly any talent that you brought to the table, the talent that got you into film school, and you're combining that with learning the skills that you learn in film school. You get down to the nuts and bolts of everything from cinematography, light stands, gripping, gaffing, all of that stuff, and you're combining that talent that you brought to the table with skill in a very quick way. And I think that that is a really important argument for film school and for me going to film school. So definitely something to keep in mind if you're wondering if having gone to film school was worth it or if going to film school is worth it. All right, so the last big sort of pro about film school, I think one of the big takeaways was the relationships and the networking. You go into film school, you're sort of in the trenches, you're in production, it's long days, long hours, and a lot of collaboration has to happen. There's conflict, of course, but then there's resolution, there's highs and lows, there's partying, there's drinks afterwards, all of that stuff. And you can really form some strong, lasting bonds with people. And it may not translate into like a lifelong friendship, but it can translate into a lifelong professional connection. And when you get to LA or New York or wherever you're going, you have that link, that common bond that you are a Florida State University Film School graduate. Even to this day, one of my closest friends, my closest friend from film school, he and I just recently decided to start collaborating on writing a spec screenplay together. And that's 14 years after we graduated. So those relationships and the networking that you get are incredibly valuable because as people graduate and they pool out into the workforce, they remember you, good and bad, hopefully good. And you never know what that connection is going to do to help you further your career as a filmmaker in Los Angeles. I know for a fact that many of my fellow graduates still work together on projects. They still help each other out, and those are important connections to make, and that's a really valuable thing that you can get from film school. It is a scorcher out here. So wrap it up here in Benson, check out the park. I'm gonna move on to running an errand. I gotta get the truck washed and cleaned up for the weekend, and then I'm probably gonna head up to a coffee shop and get some more work done. So let's get out of here. Anybody else hungry? I'm hungry. And when it's 91 degrees out, I want a steaming hot slice of pizza. Let's go get some pizza. That pizza was pretty damn legit. Had a nice thin slice of pepperoni pizza with the Topo Chico to wash it down. Perfect lunch for a nice little Omaha afternoon where I'm out vlogging, getting some administrative work done and running some errands. It is a scorcher out here. My goodness. Let's get this all figured out. You know, this is the mandatory part of a vlog is you got to film yourself adjusting your camera and then adjusting your ND filter, of course. Oh, went the wrong way there. All right, so what's the downside of having gone to film school? It's the debt. The debt is really the downside. And, you know, for me personally, and my issues with whether it's saving, spending, having an investment first mindset, being risky, whatever it is, I have not managed to put a big dent into that debt. And part of that is not earning enough revenue year after year, you know, kind of break even through my business. You know, we dug out of the $30,000 in debt that we had when we moved to Omaha. And that took having a full-time job for the two of us, my wife and I, using, you know, different tricks like credit cards that had low interest rates or no interest rates, all that kind of stuff to pay that down. We've gotten some savings. We've paid off all of our consumer debt. So all that is taken care of. All that's left is the student loan debt and the mortgage. And, you know, there's like a 0% interest card that has my computers on it, and so that's technically debt, but it's not penalty full debt where you're paying these high interest rates that credit cards typically have. Regardless of that, you know, the debt is like an anchor around your waist, pulling you back. It's been nice since the pandemic happened that it's been 0% interest in optional payments, but you're just delaying the inevitable. And some of the things they're overhauling with student loans, you know, we're hoping that that maybe the interest rates are lowered, or there's loan forgiveness for everyone after 25 years of repayment. That's the big things with these student loans. The average interest rate is 6.5%. So you're talking about huge monthly payments on $90,000 in debt just to stay on top of the interest. Now, the other question is, do I regret going to film school? Was it worth it for me? And I will say that ultimately, with where things were in 2006, what I was trying to achieve, even though the big dream that I had with Hollywood and screenwriting hasn't happened, it's still possible that it could. I haven't given up entirely on it. It's just not my top priority right now. Ultimately, I feel like it's been worth it. I got to work in the concert touring industry with one of my best friends in the world, Nick Militello. I worked on exciting shows, everything from Gwen Stefani to J-Lo to Ariana Grande, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Aerosmith, Toby Keith, you name it. And that was a really cool experience for 3 years, and even since I came back to Omaha. In Omaha, I ascended to post-production supervisor at a small production company here and grew revenue, helped the owners grow revenue from $80,000 a year to over $500,000 a year. Then I went back out on my own, had some rough times trying to be a freelancer, started my own business, did well right out of the gate, but was investing so much in the business that there wasn't really any profit, and then decided to pivot with the pandemic into content creation full-time, and that's going really well. Of course, it's nowhere near what it needs to be to pay down that debt, pay off my mortgage, aggressively save, put money towards retirement, all the things that someone who's 43 starts to get worried about as they're looking at, and this is not a pessimistic thing at all, but they're looking at sort of the downslope of their life. I know I've got a good 30 years left of prime work time, but you know, your mindset changes from everything being uphill to things being a little compressed for time, and that to meet your objectives, you're looking at having to do a lot of serious catch-up. I know there's people that I know who are my friends and contemporaries, other professionals working outside of filmmaking that I know in Omaha, and they're doing really well. Happiness aside, financially, they feel secure. Does anybody actually ever feel secure? I don't know, but they've kind of have their ducks in a row, and I just am bothered that I don't. Now, I've told my wife numerous times, if we didn't have $90,000 in student loan debt, instead of having a $100,000 mortgage, we'd have a $200,000 mortgage, and the debt would be there no matter what. Maybe with a house, it's a little bit better because it's something physical that you can sell and it gains value, whereas the piece of paper hanging on my wall doesn't. But I do feel like it's an investment that is paying off, and ultimately, I will look back and say, I am glad I went. It paid off financially. I got everything figured out. I caught up, and I feel much better. Now, here's the other question. Would I go to film school in 2022? And the answer is a big, fat no. Personally, I would not. With all of the digital cinema resources, YouTube University, people making videos and films in every major and small market across the country, I would pursue a film career through the internet, making short films, making documentaries, doing everything with a small crew of kindred spirits and like-minded filmmakers. I would put all that together on my own, starting when I was younger, and trying to get the attention of subscribers, of Kickstarters, of Hollywood professionals, whoever it is, getting into film festivals and going that path, and doing it without taking on that kind of debt to do it. I think that that kind of debt really holds you back to being able to weather the storm in Los Angeles when shit hits the fan with the recession. It's just a big liability that holds you back, and I just do not think that that piece of paper that has gotten me no job has ever asked if I have an MFA in screenwriting. It's gotten me really nowhere as far as my professional career goes, being a credential that's required to get a job or whatever. I am proud of it. I am proud to have it. My dad had a graduate degree. I'm proud that I have a graduate degree. But ultimately in 2022, if I was 26 years old and decided I want to be a filmmaker, I would not borrow money to go to film school, period. There's a lot of benefits to it, but to me, it's just too much of a anchor around your waist, and I wouldn't do it. So I think that sums everything up for this video. Was it worth it? Yes, it was for me. Would it be worth it for me today? No, it wouldn't. So kind of a two-part answer. I appreciate you all for watching this video. I know I don't vlog often, but this was something that was weighing heavily on me, and I wanted to share it with all of you. Appreciate a like on this video because it's not going to perform well on my channel because it's a little bit off the beaten path, but all your likes will certainly help with other people in the audience getting a chance to see it. I'll see you guys out in the next one, and until then, just don't forget, keep chopping that broccoli. Got a little iced coffee here at Myrtle and Cypress. Normally I'm inside and I get a cappuccino even after lunch, but today I need a cold beverage because I've been out roaming the streets of Omaha to produce this vlog. Just a straight up iced latte, pretty darn good. Sweating a little bit here in the old sun and heat, but I'm gonna go back inside and start working on all the little things that I need to get lined up to plan my next week and to button up this week. I gotta pick up my daughter in about an hour and a half, so I'm gonna crank on the old laptop here in the nice, cool coffee shop vibe, and that's it. And I'll get back to work for all of you guys, cranking out good videos, making Final Cut content, filmmaking content, Apple Tech content next week. Thanks for being here.